Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, and in this RedGamingTech.com video, we're going to be discussing as well as analysing tech news which, as usual, has popped up in the past 24 or so hours. This is the second video for the day, the first one focusing on AMD's RDNA 2 Zen 3 Imagination Technologies releasing GPUs for the data center and your PC. This video, though, we're going to start things out with the PS5 and the, quote, user experience, end quote, of the console. After months of, well, just saying very little, to be honest with you, Sony in the last couple of weeks have uploaded a detailed discussion of the PS5 specs, teardown of the console, and now a look at the GUI of the system. And at least in my opinion, the UI looks rather nice. I would encourage you to check the UI video out. Again, I'll link it in the video description. But I do want to go over some of my thoughts for this because I think that it's pretty damn cool. The video was created by Sony's Sid Schumann. Now, when you first load the PS5 up, assuming you've run it with a title previously, we actually saw this particular game system launch with Sackboy, a big adventure. And basically, when you first load up, after a few seconds, a game will start, whatever it is, in this case Sackboy, and the UI will be open. So obviously you can close it if you so desire, or you can do another task. For example, you could start a party invite with a friend, or you could possibly jump to a different game, or whatever. We don't have full insight, unfortunately, to all of the functionality of the console. They did not detail, for example, graphics modes and that type of stuff, which, in my opinion anyway, is unfortunate. But we do have an understanding of day-to-day kind of user experiences. So a lot of the screen when you first start up is obviously taken up by the cards, and they obviously provide you insight into numerous activities, stories about the games that you've been playing from the different publishers, screenshots if you've taken any screenshots or footage captured on the PS5. It's apparently at 4K native for your FYI, as well as tasks which you can do in the games. This actually very much matches a patent, several patents actually, which I was discussing quite a while ago. It works almost exactly how the patents detailed. Basically, game developers can kind of, how do I put it, add flags, I suppose, in the game and create. I don't want to say achievements necessarily, but kind of like little missions and campaigns. And then, based upon those criteria, you can do things in the game. We only have Sackboy here, so we can't see it in a broader context, unfortunately. But what you could do is, for example, if you're working on larger open world games, something like that, you could possibly have your character teleport to a specific task, and even, and this one's kind of cool, if you've got a PlayStation Plus membership, certain games will enable you to actually get help to achieve a task. So what does this mean? No, it's not pay to win. Instead, rather than Googling, for example, and looking at like a Let's Play or like a guide, a written guide. Instead, there's like a very short, to the point video which will detail trickier things to accomplish. Now, I know that some people are not going to be big fans of that because they'll say, well, that's kind of taking away the challenge of the game and all of that stuff. Personally, I don't mind it because there's so many video guides anyway, it's not that big of a deal. I know others will kind of not like it because it's behind PlayStation Plus. Personally, I think that that's fine. I don't really have a big deal with it. I don't like it, but I also don't dislike it. I will say, though, that the ability to teleport around a game and just have a better understanding of how long a task will accomplish. So the one that they kind of shown off here, they said that the whole set of quests would take about 10 minutes to accomplish, and they were 33% through. Now, obviously, how long something would take to accomplish does depend. So some people are going to be speed running the game Others are going to be exploring literally every nook and cranny, and you're going to get people of different skill levels. According to Sony, this will be dependent upon your playstyle. In other words, it's an estimate which will fluctuate. So one person may get 15 minutes, another one might get 5, just for example. I think that's pretty cool, at least in my opinion. I think the GUI looks quite functional. There were also several other things which were shown off. With the in-game help, you can kind of move the you can move the window around where they've got the monk robe east location video. You can move it and pin it and do whatever else, which obviously is kind of what you would expect, given that otherwise it could potentially overlay the action of a specific game. But there were also other things which were shown off too, including the fact that you can actually screen share someone who's in your party, assuming that they do decide to share their screen. You can't just invade their, console and just like see what the hell they're doing. They do have to voluntarily do this, and this means that you can get some really cool experiences. It would make, I guess, streaming from your friends really interesting. It would also mean I don't want to use the word mundane, but kind of more grindy tasks in like RPGs when you're just kind of trying to grind up levels or whatever. You know what it's like in Final Fantasy or what have you, and you're just like, please just let me get those 5 or whatever levels. So that's kind of cool. Again, you can adjust that around the screen. It has some interesting ramifications. I would be interested in certain games you cannot stream within the UI, just because it might give you like a competitive advantage in certain team-based games. I don't really play online enough for that to kind of impact me honestly anymore, but I imagine this would have some interesting ramifications for something like, I don't know, Call of Duty. And to be fair, again, I've not played any modern Call of Duty online in absolutely ages, so I could be totally wrong on that. So if I am, please let me know in the comments. I honestly don't play games online anymore. I'm mostly just a single player gamer. Either way, it could also have some interesting impacts for like co-op as well. I remember when I was playing like Resident Evil 5 with my friends online, and obviously you kind of split up at points, and yeah, I think that would be kind of cool to actually have a better understanding of like what the hell your friend is doing, how they're trying to get to you, or what area they're saying about when they're talking about to the left. Like, which left? My left or your left? The statue left. Which statue? There's 50 of them in the room. It doesn't help. But yeah, I think that could have, depending on how it works. Unfortunately, don't know all the limitations here, but I think it could look pretty cool. I haven't exactly done an in-depth graphical analysis of the game as well, but it does look like there is some very advanced lighting on Sackboy. It looks like some actual ray tracing here. As for the time between loading, they jumped between Sackboy and then they went into All-Star Racing. I must admit, Destruction All-Star Racing really doesn't look like my type of game, but you can see that it does load within just a few seconds, which is definitely very impressive in terms of just start times. And there are a ton of other things you can do, of course, like share videos and all of that stuff. Again, that's at 4K, and you can share things socially to Twitter or what have you. I think that Sony have made a lot of smart decisions with the UI. They did actually state that the UI is maybe going to change just a little bit for the final production consoles. They said that there are a few things that they're still working on, so maybe there's like a day one update that we get or something like that. And they did say that this is internal software at the moment, so maybe this was something that will slightly change or improve in speed or what have you. But yeah, I think it's really impressive what Sony have actually accomplished with the UI. I think it looks cool. It looks non-invasive, at least in my opinion. But something that you don't expect to see every day, and that is GameStop being thrown a lifeline. And Microsoft, they continue to do very interesting things for the industry. And well, yeah, GameStop's stock was getting, let's be kind and say less healthy. over the last several years. And obviously, they've been closing stores, and that sucks for employees. And honestly, although I do buy stuff online, I am a fan of physical versions of games, which is ironic as I'm primarily a PC gamer, and B, I do like to go into a physical store because I think that, admittedly, now it's a little trickier for obvious real world issues, but just in general, I like going into stores. I like to kind of browse games, and I think some of it, for me, anyways, definitely stems from nostalgia. I remember kind of looking at old retro games when I was a kid, and like seeing, going into the stores and seeing like the Sega Saturn and PlayStation games, like just filling up the shelves and like looking at boxes of N64 games. I never owned the console, and kind of buying up cheap 16-bit games because at the time the consoles were dead. They'd stopped production of them, and I was buying them up because my parents would be like, hey, we're going to give you like $10 or whatever, as you've been you've done X, Y, or Z, so we're going to buy you like a cheap game or something like that. And I'd buy like a couple of cheap £10 games on 16-bit rather than like use my budget on like a Sega Saturn game, because I just wanted more stuff to play. But anyway, getting back to the story itself, I kind of got a bit off topic there. Microsoft will be sharing digital revenue with GameStop on every single Xbox it sells. So this is for either the Series X or S. And this has now been confirmed by GameStop themselves. This was a gamesindustry.biz article, so I encourage you to check it out. And this is actually hot off the heels of GameStop announcing a multi year partnership with Microsoft. So, how does it work? Well, long story short, if you purchase a console from GameStop, this can be used or new, it doesn't matter. If you buy a digital purchase, so this could be DLC or a full game, GameStop will get a few pennies for the transaction. Now, what's really interesting is if you buy a physical version of the game, say from GameStop, or you purchase it from an entirely different retailer, Walmart, whatever, you still will be benefiting GameStop with any digital purchase. So, for the sake of argument, let's say the new Halo releases, and your grand buys you it for sake of argument for a Walmart, but then you buy DLC for that game via Microsoft Store. GameStop will still benefit. They won't benefit, of course, from the physical purchase, but they will benefit from, let's say the DLC costs $20, they will get a percentage of that $20, which obviously is not a bad thing from the perspective of GameStop, and it basically is probably going to be enough to save their lives. Now, this does bring questions of, will Sony and Nintendo do the same? Because if you think about it, if you were GameStop and the other two companies did not do this, so Microsoft were the only ones giving you any cut at all of sales digitally, wouldn't you be at the very least more tempted to push Xbox consoles? I mean, forget even from the management level. Let's say that you're just, a store employee. You don't want to lose your job. You would probably still be more tempted to push Xbox consoles. Maybe I'm misreading that. I don't really know. I've only been in a couple of GameStops in the States, honestly. And I went into, I think, one in, I think it was it Oregon? Was it? Yeah, I went one Oregon and one in Washington State. So I'm not like super familiar with like how it works. So I could be totally off base on that. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they did incentivize, or at the very least push, customers to buy an Xbox system. Either way, it's definitely very interesting for the market. I think it's great though in a lot of ways. Like, I don't want brick and mortar stores to go. I think that that would suck. So perhaps this is a good way for, I guess, the companies to kind of coexist for a while longer. Yeah. As always, though, it's very early days. We don't know how the deal's going to work, and unfortunately, as of the time I'm recording this anyway, we don't know specifics in terms of how much percentage they get. Like, is it 0.0001% or what? I'm sure that those specifics will probably become more readily available soon. But with that said, thank you very much for watching the video. The normal stuff, if you've enjoyed it, like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.